Hello everybody and welcome back to the Michigan Insider, Michigan.247sports.com. I'm Alejandro Zuniga here outside the Michigan football facilities, recapping a couple days worth of press conferences as the Wolverines rebound from that blowout loss to Texas and prepare for their last non-conference game of the regular season, Saturday at noon against Arkansas State. That game is the first ever matchup between the two programs. In fact, Michigan and Arkansas State haven't played in football, in men's or women's basketball, in pretty much any major sport, so it really is a first time for these two schools to meet in a major sporting competition. Interestingly enough, and maybe coincidentally enough, it is a rematch for Dominic Zada, the kicker for the Wolverines, who's become a nice storyline through the first couple weeks. He's 5 for 5 on field goals. 3 of those, I believe, are from 50-plus yards, including 2 very important field goals in that season opener against Fresno State. We talked to Dominic Zada yesterday. We talked to special teams coordinator J.B. Brown today about the process of how he ended up at Michigan and how special it is for him to face his former team. Dominic Zada, he played 2 years over with the Red Wolves at Arkansas State. He was a Lou Garoza Award semifinalist as a freshman, scored a career high, I believe it was 92 points as a sophomore. Obviously off to a very nice start this year. He said Arkansas State was his only offer coming out of high school. He didn't start kicking until his junior year of high school when he had some spare time during the pandemic. Football team needed a kicker. He had been playing soccer, so he gave it a shot. Turns out he was pretty good. Was on Twitter one day, saw that an Arkansas State coach had slid into his DMs. That ended up being his only offer. He would have otherwise, he said, gone to Arizona State as a normal student. Instead, walked onto the Red Wolves, got a scholarship offer before his freshman year, and obviously has put together 2.5 very solid seasons as a collegiate kicker. In fact, he told us yesterday his first kicks in college were making field goals at Ohio State, so he's very comfortable kicking at this level. From J.B. Brown's perspective as special teams coordinator at Michigan, he says as soon as they had the spring transfer portal window open, coaches were hitting up as many kickers as they could. It just so happened that Dominic Zada, one of the best kickers in the country, entered the portal, so they reached out to him. And they knew that there would be this rematch this year between Michigan and Arkansas State. If Dominic Zada were to end up here, he did, and says that as soon as he landed on campus, you could just tell the ball coming off his foot sounds different than most kickers. Said that Dominic Zada prepares and has the talent of a professional. There will be plenty of love between him and his former teammates on Saturday afternoon when Arkansas State comes to town. Elsewhere on special teams, maybe a bit more of a point of concern with Tommy Doman, the punter, who has had his struggles through the first couple weeks of the season. Got a bit unlucky with his first punt against Texas that ended up not going very far, in part because of hang time and distance issues in the air, but then took a very strong longboards bounce when it hit the ground that Michigan couldn't cover. J.B. Brown, special teams coordinator, says things look fine in practice. Said that Tommy Doman, his leg, his consistency, all that has been fine in practice. They're going to tweak things with his pregame and game day routine to make sure he stays in a rhythm on game days so that what happens here on State Street translates over to Main Street and that he's booming punts as he was able to do most of last year. Also talked to Kendrick Bell and Ron Bellamy. Kendrick Bell, obviously younger brother of Ronnie Bell. I'm sure he loves hearing that every time his name is brought up. But Ron Bellamy, the wide receivers coach as well. Obviously there's been some concern with the passing game, both from a quarterback perspective, from an offensive line perspective, and from a receiver perspective. All across the board, the offense is seeking more consistency. Ron Bellamy said that when you look at the All-22, yes, there are sometimes issues with the wide receivers, but they are creating separation at times. There is talent. There are explosives available to be had across the wide receiver room. One of the guys they're very excited about is Kendrick Bell. As mentioned, younger brother of Ronnie, had a lot of opportunities this spring because the wide receiver room was so, it wasn't deep, that there weren't many options following the departures of Roman Wilson, Cornelius Johnson, and some injuries. So Kendrick Bell has really grown a lot, which is necessary for him to do because he transitioned from quarterback to wide receiver during his freshman year here at Michigan. He's now a redshirt freshman, actually earned his first start against the Texas Longhorns. He's actually also earned the second most snaps among Michigan's receivers, just behind Tyler Morris, ahead of guys like ahead of guys like Samaj Morgan, like Fred Moore, like Peyton O'Leary, people we thought might be higher up on the depth chart. Turns out that's a surprise to Kendrick Bell too. He mentioned that he'd been hurt through much of fall camp. He had a shoulder injury, and he only really returned in full before the first week of the season as Michigan was preparing to face Fresno State. He's hoping to do more with his opportunities this weekend against Arkansas State. Also talked to Ron Bellamy about Donovan Edwards and how Michigan might use him more in the passing game. Ron Bellamy said he and Donovan Edwards work pretty closely together in most practices. Donovan Edwards will take some time apart, come over to him, work on route running, work on details with catching. Said that whether or not he's used more in the passing game is really going to be based on the defense and the weaknesses that they present. Of course, the offense as a whole would like to get into a rhythm this weekend as they prepare eventually for the Big Ten season in a couple weeks, but potentially with a chance to get right against a weaker Arkansas State side. We'll have more from that over at the Michigan Insider as the Wolverines prepare for that game. So stay tuned to Michigan.247sports.com. From everyone there, I'm Alejandro Zuniga. We'll talk to you next time.